أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome everybody. We are on day 18 alhamdulillah. Inshallah, bi'idhnillah, we should be able to finish Surah Al Imran tomorrow and continue moving forward as we're getting into the last 10 nights of Ramadan as they're fast approaching. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the ability to make the most out of that those days and grant us in His mercy and expel us from the hellfire in those 10 days. In the last 10 days, we make dua for that. So quick recap from yesterday. We had started to talk about post-Uhud commentary from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was explaining to the believers that whatever you have gone through, it is indeed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That it was bi'idhnillah, the hardships that touched you. Do not think for a moment, don't lose hope. And we're going to continue going into post-Uhud commentary. But one of the things that I just wanted to highlight from yesterday's talk was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا يُمَحِّصَ اللَّهُ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is purifying or cleansing or making sure that there's no weeds within the ranks of the believers. And he's literally just trying to make sure that the Muslim Ummah is going to be as tight-knit as possible as we're about to approach, in the upcoming ghazawat and the wars against larger enemies, such as Battle of Khandaq or the battles with the Roman or the Byzantine empires and so forth. So the idea is going to come up today again as to the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing this. And then he says, so liya'lam Allah, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know, i.e. so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose who the munafiqun are. Who are those individuals that are pretending to be amongst your ranks, but they're really not. Because at Uhud, as we discussed, 300 of them left, right? As they were, and we're going to talk more about that today, inshallah, as well. But that was a clear indication that these individuals were not in sync with the Muslim community at large. They're not in sync with the Prophet's command, and they decided to walk off the battlefield. So what we were talking about yesterday when we were concluding, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was describing the scenes at the time of Uhud when سَنُلْقِي فِي قُلُوبِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الرُّعْبَ, that we will strike panic in the hearts of the disbelievers, بِمَا أَشْرَكُوا بِاللَّهِ, with what they used to do shirk with, in terms of with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانًا, and they had no authority of doing any of that, وَمَأْوَاهُمُ النَّارِ, and what a terrible place that residence would be, وَبِئْسَ مَثْوَى الظَّالِمِينَ, and that's going to be the home of the evildoers. And then وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ إِذْ تَحُسُّونَهُمْ بِإِذْنِهِ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I have already fulfilled my promise, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you were asking for angels, I sent you angels. إِذْ بِإِذْنِهِ حَتَّى إِذَا فَشِلْتُمْ, but then you started becoming loose, right? The archers, they decided to want to attain for something. وَتَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and then they argued amongst each other in the matter. وَعَصَيْتُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ, and then you disobeyed after that. ما أراكم ما تحبون منكم من يريد الدنيا, and you saw that which you love from this world. So some Mufassirun say that was the spoils of war, and other Mufassirun mention that those were actually the fact that the Muslims were winning the battle. So you saw that, and it's a worldly victory still, right? If you win a war, sure that there's larger implications to it, but the immediate effect, that feeling of, oh my God, we're winning, even though we're such outnumbered, that was a worldly feeling. ثُمَّ صَرَفَكُمْ, وَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يُرِيدُ الْآخِرَةَ, and there was also amongst you people who wanted the hereafter. ثُمَّ صَرَفَكُمْ عَنْهُمْ لِيَبْتَلِيَكُمْ, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevented you from winning, right? He distanced the possibility of winning from you in order to continue to test you all. وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ, But then immediately in the same ayah, right? It's part of the same ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, however, we have forgave you all. Wallahu dhu fadlin ala al-mu'mineen, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the possessor of all the bounties for the believers. إذ تُصْدِعُونَ وَلَا تَلْوُونَ عَلَى أَحَدٍ. And تُصْدِعُونَ is when you get su'ud al-jibal is like to climb a mountain, right? So asda is the idea that you guys were trying to climb away. You guys were fleeing. You guys were trying to get out of the situation. وَلَا تَلْوُونَ عَلَى أَحَدٍ وَالرَّسُولُ يَدْعُوكُمْ. That you guys wouldn't even dare to turn back and look. And not a single one of you. While وَالرَّسُولُ يَدْعُوكُمْ فِي أُخْرَاكُمْ. And while the messenger, he was calling you. He was telling you to come back and fight on the other end, right? Ukhrakum on the like on the opposite side or from behind you. فَأَثَابَكُمْ غَمًّا بِغَمٍّ. And then athaba, like you know how we were saying that the reward, right? Sawab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that in the previous ayahs, and here it's the same root letter وَأَثَابَكُمْ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded you. He gave you all غَمًّا بِغَمٍّ, like sorrow over sorrow. And the idea is because of the gesture that you had done towards the Prophet in the chaos, it was just he muddled your thoughts. You weren't able to think clearly. لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا. And that so that you may بِغَمٍ لِكَيْ لَا تَحْزَنُوا, so that you may not be grieved. عَلَى مَا فَاتَاكُمْ, over what you may have lost. وَلَا مَا أَصَابَكُمْ, nor over what has afflicted you all. Wallahu khabirun bima ta'malun. And indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of what you guys do. ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُم مِّن بَعْدِ الْغَمِّ. And then after that grief, after that moment of muddleness, after that, the times where it was just like and the idea, the reason I'm saying gham is muddled idea aspect as well, is like ghamam is what is clouds, comes from the same root letters, and the idea is that something overshadows you, right? Something comes in that you're not able to make that correlation immediately. So ثُمَّ أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُم مِّن بَعْدِ الْغَمِّ. And after that state of initial despair or distraught, آمَنَةً, then it was peace, it was tranquility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anzala amanatan. He's the one who sent this state of peace. Nu'asan. And this is the amanatan, nu'asan is describing how they were feeling, because it's a very intense situation. You're in war. There's swords flying all over, the arrows going all over the place. It's a pretty brutal situation. So how does one gain peace in that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says nu'asan, that He made you in a state of drowsiness. Nu'as is literally those overtaking moments that where like you're sitting in class and your eyes are just shutting down and you're like going like this, and then you end up just your muscles actually loosen up and you're just out. You don't realize it, and then you wake up and you're like, oh man, how much did I miss? That's nu'as, like that type of sleep that you're not fully asleep. You think you're able to hear the teacher, but you can't really comprehend what's going on and lose track of time. يَغْشَى طَائِفَةً مِّنْكُمْ, right? When nu'as, it overtook a group of you, from you all, and it didn't take over everyone. وَطَائِفَةٌ قَدْ أَهَمَّتْ أَنفُسُهُمْ يَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ. And still there was a group amongst them, even those who were left behind in Uhud, there was a group amongst them who were worrying. They're just constant worry on their mind, that how are we going to, why should we go to sleep right now? This can't be, we're not going to survive if we go to sleep right now. So they were trying to overthink the situation. And يَظُنُّونَ بِاللَّهِ غَيْرَ الْحَقِّ. And in that process, they actually transgressed and they thought against or about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that which was not true. And the idea is, even though 300 of those munafiqun, they had left, they were still a good enough population that there were still some of them that never made it to get out of the initial walkout from the munafiqun. And so there might have still been some left, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is even capturing them, and He's saying they were having these types of thought. يَقُولُونَ هَلْ لَنَا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا. And they were saying, isn't anybody going to listen to us? Isn't there anything in our hands? Why aren't people seeing that we should have never come here in the first place. We said this from the get-go. هَلْ لَنَا مِنْ أَمْرِنَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ. There's nothing, it's all out of control, right? So when things go wrong, these are the first people that are going to jump ship from your organization. These are the first people that are going to be like, man, I told you so. If you listen to me, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. They're the ones that kind of just out the whole organization in the first place. قُلْ إِنَّ الْأَمْرَ كُلُّهُ لِلَّهِ. And tell, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell them that no, every matter, all the commands are in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يُخْفُونَ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ مَا لَا يُبْدُونَ لَكَ. And they are trying to conceal what is in their hearts, and they're not making it announced to you. They're not making it public to you. So these people were not actually, they may not have been publicly saying these, but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heard them, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam responding to them, يَقُولُونَ لَوْ كَانَ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَمْرِ شَيْءٌ مَا قُتِلْنَا هَاهُنَا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is then saying, then say, if you had a say in the matter, then they are the ones who are saying that if we had a say in the matter, مِنْ أَمْرِنَا شَيْءٌ مَا قُتِلْنَا هَاهُنَا, then we would not have been killed here. Right? So these people are saying that if it was up to us, we would have just walked out, nobody would have died. قُلْ لَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ لَبَرَزَ الَّذِينَ كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is then responding to them, and he's telling the Prophet, say to them, had Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, had it been destined, if you were in your homes, بُيُوتِكُمْ لَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ, had you been in your homes, لَبَرَزَ الَّذِينَ كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقَتْلُ, and death would have been knocking at your side, إِلَى مَضَاجِعِهِمْ. The death would have found their way to their homes, and found it, even if they were lying on the side of their bed, it would still found them there. وَلِيَبْتَلِيَ اللَّهُ مَا فِي صُدُورِكُمْ. And this is that in order that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may test your inner qualities. He may test what's in your hearts, فِي صُدُورِكُمْ وَلِيُمَحِّسَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. And so that He may purify, He may cleanse, right? The same word, يُمَحِّسَ. Mahasa was the idea that it's going to take a lot, extreme heat, extreme type of purification. مَا فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. So what is in your heart? So that all these what ifs, like if we had done this idea of doubt against the Prophet ﷺ is going to be completely removed from these people's hearts. That's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that you were put into this situation. Wallahu alimun bidhati sudur, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of what is in your chest. Innal ladhina tawallaw. And then of those who had turned away, and again talking about the two tribes or two sects that you can say within the army, the two groups that had turned away from the battle for momentarily, right? And some people actually even say that Hazrat Usman radhiyallahu anhu was also a part of this group, that he had fled for a second. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is again clarifying for us, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ تَوَلَّوْا مِنْكُمْ يَوْمَ الْتَقَى الْجَمْعَانِ. And on the day when the two armies met, there was two of them that had turned away. إِنَّمَا إِسْتَزَلَّهُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ. And shaitan tried to cause them to slip up. And look at the wording of the Quran. Istazalla. It's not the adalla. It's not that they slipped up. It's, or even azalla shaitan made them slip up. Zalla is they slipped up. Adalla is to be made to slip up. And istazalla is to try to slip up. And ash-shaytanu istazallahum, the shaitan tried to make them slip up. بِبَعْدِ مَا كَسَبُوا, because of what they had done. In such a very fine way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even saying, the reason why shaitan was even able to attempt to do that is because of what they had done. Meaning that there may be some action, some sort of disobedience that they may have had in their private life. And every disobedience that we have against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it cracks open a portion within our heart where shaitan can then intrude from. Any ma'asiyah that we have, any disobedience that we have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it allows the shaitan to penetrate through that disobedience and then lead us to do greater fawahish, greater sins, greater idea of lewdness or وَلَقَدْ عَفَى اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already pardoned them, and not just forgave them, pardoned them in a loving manner. Like in a way that He forgave them and this is gone, it's erased. Inna Allah ghafurun halim. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forgiving and halim, forbearing. Like that mother to the child, remember that we gave an example of Surah Baqarah. So, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la takunu kalladhina kafaru. And O you who believe, do not be like the ones who have disbelieved. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now talking to us, you and I, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, and He's saying, don't be like the ones who have disbelieved. وَقَالُوا لِإِخْوَانِهِمْ. And what is the quality of the disbelievers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pointing out here? Right? The quality is, they say to their brothers, to when they come back home, they're sitting down and they're talking and start talking and say, إِذَا ضَرَبُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ أَوْ كَانُوا غُزًّا لَوْ كَانُوا عِنْدَنَا مَا مَاتُوا وَمَا قُتِلُوا لِيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ. And they're saying to each other, if they hadn't, gone around in the earth, if they hadn't gone on a journey, and if they hadn't taken this road trip, or if they hadn't gone on this ghazwa, this battle, لَوْ كَانُوا عِنْدَنَا, and they just, stayed put with us, مَا مَاتُوا وَمَا قُتِلُوا, and they wouldn't have died, nor would they have been killed. لِيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ ذَلِكَ حَسْرَةً فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, we have made this as a disease or source of anguish in their hearts. So the fact that they even talk like this, right? This is a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them, that it continues to create this what ifs. And again, once you open this door for shaitan will introduce 1,000 thoughts into your heads. That, if once the matter is done and over with, and then it's all the questions like, what if I hadn't gone there in the first place? Would that have happened? What if I never took that trip in the first place? And shaitan is going to open up those doors of doubts then for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, no, and He's describing, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la takunu kalladhina kafaru. Don't be like those who disbelieve. Right? And this is a sign of disbelief. That means that when you start doubting the taqdeer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if that person didn't do this, then he wouldn't have been in the situation this is, or if he wouldn't have died. Wallahu yuhyi wa yumeet. And it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gives life and who gives death. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware, it sees all that you do. Everything that you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees. Wala in qutiltum fi sabilillah. And whether you were killed in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you just passed away. Whether you were killed in the path of Allah or you had passed away, لَمَغْفِرَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. There is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying with emphasis, there is going to be forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa rahmah, and there's going to be maghfirah and rahmah, forgiveness and mercy. خَيْرٌ مِّمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. Better than what them would have gathered, people would have amassed. Meaning, like, yes, the person may have been able to, if he had 20 more years, 30 more years of his life, he would have been able to work, get, maybe he was starting a family, and then he would have been able to have a job, then buy a house, and then have a sustained income or a 401k, and then he would have had more money before he passed away. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, but if they had died, لَمَغْفِرَةٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَحْمَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. The forgiveness and the mercy, the forgiveness and the mercy that they would have that they received in this situation, it's better than what they would have ever amassed. وَلَئِن مُتُّمْ أَوْ قُتِلْتُمْ لَإِلَى اللَّهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. And whether you die or are killed, it is to God that you will be returned. Right? And so it's very interesting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is playing on word. In the previous ayah, it says خَيْرٌ مِّمَّا يَجْمَعُونَ. It's better than what they would have gathered in this world. Here, إِلَى اللَّهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. Indeed, تُحْشَرُونَ. Sorry. And indeed, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are going to be gathered. Like the people themselves, you and I, whether we like it or not, everyone will be gathered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like we are trying to gather our wealth in this world, we will be gathered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hereafter. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. And now this is such a powerful ayah in terms of leadership and how you and I have to deal with our families, with any type of position that we may have been given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now speaking to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We just got back from Uhud. There was a pretty significant defeat. Loved ones were lost. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has, we would think, the full rights to be angry. Right? He had commanded people to do something, they disobeyed. Even from the get-go, you can say, right? The Prophet ﷺ himself did not want to leave the city of Medina, but there were some very active individuals who really wanted to. Some of the Sahaba's younger companions, they really wanted. So it seems like the Prophet ﷺ has every reason to be mad at the community, because his desires or his thoughts from the initial onset were not followed through. But then, as the Prophet ﷺ is about to approach the community, He's about to make his khitab to the community post Uhud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving a khitab to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. And by the act of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بِمَا رَحْمَةٍ, like because of this bountiless mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, especially from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. You were made gentle in your dealings. Like you are gentle in your dealings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding the Prophet وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَا يَنْفَضُّ مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. Had you been harsh but like fadha is like you have the ability to be harsh, but yet you don't, like it's like you have the right to be harsh, right? Had you been harsh in a rightfully manner, or ghalid al qalb, your heart would have been like hard towards them. Your heart would have been hard towards them. Lan faddu min hawlik, then they would have dispersed from you. They would have just scattered, i.e. the Sahabas. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, these Sahabas who have given up everything in their life, and they became muhajir, and they migrated from Makkah, and they came and followed you so that you can guide them in Medina, and they're still clinging on to every word you say. If you had been hard-hearted, if you had been harsh with them, they would have scattered. They would have gone away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling about the Sahabas. So think about the situation you and I are in, right? With our families, with our organizations that we help run and maintain, right? Fa'fu anhum, forgive them. Like, and again, afu is like the forgiveness that when you do that, it's a loving forgiveness. You give them a hug after you're done. It's everything is gone. There's no hard feelings. Wastaghfir lahum, and then seek forgiveness for them. Not in their face. Istaghfara, you seek forgiveness for when you seek forgiveness for yourself, like in private, you seek forgiveness in the same manner for them. And then the best part, the kicker, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. And then in order to make sure that they don't have any feeling that something of our relationship has been lost, then seek their counsel whenever you're trying to make a decision. Seek their counsel. So these people have hurt you in the most, like the Prophet lost his uncle because of this, you can say because of what some people have done, right? And this, to those individuals, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet, go back to them, forgive them, give them a hug, and then when you stand at night and you pray, especially you make dua for them, then when it comes time to make another decision, ask them, what do you think about this matter? What should I do? And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet to do in a position when, you know, your thoughts, your organization may have been compromised. There have been something that was a bad decision made on the part. فَإِذَا عَذَمْتُ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And then when فَإِذَا عَذَمْتَ, فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And then when the decision has been made, then have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't go back and say, you know, I told you we should have done this, and it was my thought that we should have done this, but then I listened to you, and now we're in this predicament again. No. فَعَذَمْتَ. You've made the decision as an organization. You sought shura. You consulted everybody. You made the decision. Now, فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Have your reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's not going to be you who's going to make it successful or unsuccessful. It's going to be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day. Inna Allah yuhibbul mutawakkilin, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves those who put their trust in them, who are the ones who put their trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yuhibbul mutawakkilin. In yansurukumullahu fala ghaliba lakum. And if God's help, right? If yansurkum, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps you all, fala ghaliba lakum, then there will be no ability for anyone to overcome you. Nobody will be able to overpower you. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help is with you, nobody can overpower you. وَإِن يَخْذُلْكُمْ فَمَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَنْصُرُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ. And if He يَخْذُلْكُمْ, if He leaves you at the time of the most, the time that you need Him the most, right? Like shaitan is known as khudula, right? Khudul. The person or the friend that leaves you at the time that you need them the most. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves you at that time, فَمَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَنْصُرُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ, then who is there? Who's even left to help you at that point? وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall the believers have tawakkul to. And tawakkul is that idea of deep trust, that when I have made my decision, this is what was going to happen, then we have to rely that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be our help or aid in it. وَمَا كَانَ لِنَبِيٍّ أَن يَغُلْ. And so what was happening was there was a discussion amongst the munafiqun that was starting up against the Prophet ﷺ, and saying that he was trying to earn extra spoils of war, and that's why he was taking us into these unnecessary battles. In the eyes of the munafiqun, that's what this was. And so what they were saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming to defend the Prophet ﷺ, and he's saying it is not appropriate. وَمَا كَانَ لِي. It's not appropriate for any messenger أَن يَغُلْ, that he earns dishonestly, that he takes for personal gains for something. وَمَن يَغْلُلْ يَأْتِ بِمَا غَلَّ يَوْمٍ. And whoever takes something unhonestly, or whoever earns something in this manner of dishonesty, يَأْتِ بِمَا غَلَّ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ, then he will have to carry it on the day of judgment, meaning that he's going to have to produce that, and he will be held accountable for that. ثُمَّ تُوَفَّى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ. And then each soul will be fully paid. تُوَفَّى, fully repaid. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَا كَسَبَتْ, whatever it had earned for itself. وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ, and they will not be wronged. Meaning, even in case of if they wronged someone and they took unnecessarily, even the punishment will be fully given to them. أَفَمَنِ اتَّبَعَ رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ. And can a man, is it even possible, أَفَمَنِ اتَّبَعَ, that for someone who is trying to do ittiba'a, and we did a pretty deep understanding of ittiba'a and ata'a, right? They are trying to follow the footsteps. And what are they trying to follow in the footsteps of? Ridwan Allah, the highest pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for someone that's constantly seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, كَمَنْ بَاءَ بِسَخَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, that he is going to like trade in بِسَخَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, like for the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That this person has dedicated their entire life to trying to earn the ridwan of Allah, and then they're going to trade this something just in and try to knowingly earn the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمْ, and their final rest place, their home is going to be hellfire. وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ, and what a terrible, terrible destination. هُمْ دَرَجَاتٌ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're going to have their ranking in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even all of those people are not the same, right? Some are very vile, very evil. Some are like, okay, they're against Islam, but they're not totally in this nasty. They don't do the nasty things that other these vile people do. Wallahu basirun bima ya'malun, and it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who knows, who sees whatever they are doing. لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذَا بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا. And then in all of this post-Uhud commentary, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us of his favor. Because, when you've been through such a hardship, you tend to question, like, what am I even doing here? Why am I fighting for this message? Like, you lose sense of your compass. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, he's reminding the believers now, لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ, Allah has favored you. He's been gracious for you. He has imposed a favor upon you, and now he's reminding you, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do that for us, but we shouldn't do that when we give charity and remind other people that we gave them. That's the same idea. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us so that we can be thankful. لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and he's given this a blessing to the believers. إِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ, when he raised amongst them رَسُولًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ, a messenger from amongst themselves. Right, and this is the answer to dua of Ibrahim alayhi salam. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ, and he's going to recite for them his ayat. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, and he's going to purify them. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابِ, and he's going to teach them the book. He's going to teach them the ahkam. He's going to teach them the rulings. وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and he's going to teach them the wisdom. وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, and before any of this was made apparent or was given by the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these people were in dalal mubin. They were in the clearest misguidance, right? They were clearly misguided. The same people, now they have the religion that they can be thankful for. أَوَلَمَّا أَصَابَتْكُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قد أصابتم قد أصبتم مثليها قلتم أن هذا. And so why do the believers, when asabatkum musibatun is the idea that when a target strikes its the arrow strikes its target, sorry, when the arrow strikes its target, right? When the musibah, when the calamity struck you, precisely when it was going to strike you, and at the time and the level of degree that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that it was going to strike you at. So when it struck, قَدْ أَصَبْتُمْ مِثْلَيْهِ, and it had already struck the other group double of what it afflicted you, right? Meaning, Battle of Badr had happened, calamities were on the other side, and so you've seen that affliction had also occurred to them. Then why, as a believer, are you saying anna hada? Why are we being tested? Or why is calamity befalling us? How did this happen? So as a believer, we should not question what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed upon us, right? قُلْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِكُمْ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, to clarify, he's telling the Prophet ﷺ, and he's telling the Prophet ﷺ to tell them, هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِكُمْ, this is because of what you have done. You have earned this for yourselves. You brought this upon yourself. And there's very clear, evidence as to what those things were, during the battle which took place, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already highlighted for us. Inna Allah ala kulli shayin qadir. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon everything is capable. وَمَا أَصَابَكُمْ يَوْمَ الْتَقَى جَمْعًا فَبِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the immediately next ayah, He said, and whatever afflicted you on the day that the two armies met, وَمَا أَصَابَكُمْ, and whatever you were afflicted, فَبِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, then it was with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. And so now you're looking at it, you're like, wait. قُلْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِهِمْ, in the previous ayah. The Prophet ﷺ is told to remind us that this is because of your own doings. And then, فَبِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, it is from the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How is it like contradicting itself? What's going on? Actually, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, He's reminding us, you and I have to put our best foot forward. We don't know what the destination, what the outcome is going to be. That is bi'idhnillah. So it's always connected. Whatever happens, it's from the mercy, what is from the permission, it happens because of the permission of Allah. But at the same time, we have to do our due diligence, we have to do our best to be able to make sure the outcome that we want to happen, happens. فَبِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ وَلِيَعْلَمَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And then, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can know the true believers. لِيَعْلَمَ. Or the understanding has that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can expose the true believers. Meaning, the munafiqun now have been weeded out, right? We can clearly tell who is not amongst the believers anymore in the ranks of them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, we're doing this so that we can expose the munafiq. وَلِيَعْلَمَ الَّذِينَ نَافَقُوا. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clarifying even more so, and so that we may expose the hypocrites. وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالَوْا قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَوْ ادْفَعُوا. And then when it is said to them, Ta'al, come, fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're walking away. The 300 munafiqun are walking away, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling, it's just being said to them, right? I'm sure the other Muslims who were amongst their ranks, they didn't want to see their fellow 300 people walking away. So they were telling them, Ta'al, fi sabilillah, come fight in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that wasn't, obviously, it wasn't working. They were munafiqun. They didn't have the idea of fighting in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then they're saying, awidfa'u, then at least defend for yourself. Like your city is going to be attacked and going to shambles if you don't protect your city, right? Because this is on the outskirts of Medina. So at least fight to defend the city. قَالُوا لَوْ نَعْلَمْ قِتَالًا لَاتَّبَعْنَاكُمْ. And they responded. The munafiqun are now being quoted to have to respond. If we know for sure that there's going to be a fight, right? If we would have followed you had we known that there was going to be a fight, for sure. And again, very flawed logic. The people, they see the army coming. They have the intelligence that it's going to happen in the next few days. And now they're walking away. هُمْ لِلْكُفْرِ يَوْمَئِذٍ أَقْرَبُ مِنْهُمْ لِلْإِيمَانِ. And on that day, even though they had claimed to be Muslims, right? Again, these are munafiqun who were amongst the Muslims on a day-to-day basis, and they were coming and praying. And like the example of Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul is that he comes and he is in the first saf of Jum'ah, and he makes an announcement every Friday to the congregation that please welcome the Prophet ﷺ, that now he's about to address the company. He would do that. This is the level of commitment he had, you can say, towards his disbelief or his hypocrisy. So he would sit in the first saf, and it's not easy, even at that time, to be in the first saf of the masjid. And then he would when the true colors are shown, they're indeed hypocrites. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying today, hum lil kafirina yawmaidhin, that they are closer to being in the state of disbelief than aqrabu minhum lil iman, than they are to iman. Yaquluna bi afwahihim ma laysa fi qulubihim, and they say with their mouths not what it is in their heart. So when they say, na'lamu law na'lamu qitalan lattaba'nahum, and if we would have followed you if you were going to actually fight, that's not what they believe. They know what's going on. They know fully well what's going on, but they decided to turn away because ma laysa fi qulubihim, because that wasn't what was in their heart. Wallahu a'lamu bima taktumun, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that which you hide. Alladhina qalu li ikhwanihim wa qa'adu. And now post Uhud, now everyone's just sitting back and they're talking. They're, how we like to talk. So now they're talking, and they're talking to their brother li ikhwanihim wa qa'adu, while they're sitting down. Right? Jala says to sit down. Qa'ad is like an extended period of sitting. So they're mahfil jama ke baithe hain, like they're saying. So now they're talking. Law ata'una ma qutilu. Had we followed, had our brothers listened to us. Right? Because remember, some of the munafiqun still got stuck, left at the Uhud, and maybe some of them also had passed away. So now these munafiqun, when they're sitting and they're talking to amongst themselves, they're like, law ata'una ma qutilu. If they had followed us, if they had listened to us, if they knew what was right for them, they would have listened to us, and then they wouldn't have died. Qul, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quotes that in the Quran. Not only that, he is telling the Prophet ﷺ, respond to them. فَضْرَؤُوا عَنْ أَنفُسِكُمُ الْمَوْتَ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Then dara'a is literally just push something away, like with extreme force. Like if you saw that there was an oncoming car and there was a child standing in the middle of the street, and you push them away for their safety. Right? That's what dara is. So fatra'u an anfusikumul maut, then push death away like that from yourself. In kuntum sadiqin, if you are indeed truthful. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And don't you dare even think for a moment, don't you dare assume that the ones who died in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or who passed away in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that they are dead. Like, and we talked about this, similar ayah came in Surah Baqarah, right? And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, تَحْسَبَنَّ, la, first order of emphasis, right? Then the tahsabu is the idea that tahsab, is don't assume. Tahsaban, don't dare assume. La tahsabanna, don't you dare, don't even thinking about something like this, that they are dead. Bal ahya'un 'inda rabbihim, rather they are alive with their Lord. Yarzuqun, and they are well provided for. They have everything that they are in need for. Farihina bima atahum, they are overjoyed. They're extremely happy with whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided them. Min fadlihi, from his bounties, especially from his bounties, right? وَيَسْتَبْشِرُونَ بِالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَلْحَقُوا بِهِمْ, and they are rejoicing. They're istabshara yastabshiru, they're overjoyed, and they're seeking that joy. And what? يَلْحَقُوا بِهِمْ مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ Allah khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun, and they find joy in what yalhaqu bihim min khalfihim, whenever those who have left behind, they join them. Right? So like, oh yeah, that person's also now a part of their ranks and group now, and they're overjoyed with that. Yalhaqu bihim min khalfihim alla khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun, and there are no fear on them, nor will they have any grief. Yastabshiruna bi ni'matin min Allah, and they are again in rejoicing. Istabshara yastabshiru, to be rejoicing in God's blessing. Bi ni'matin min Allah, from the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa fadlin, and his favor upon them. Wa anna Allah la yudi'u ajra al-mu'minin, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let a single reward, ada'a yudi'u, to go to waste for the believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them like VIP treatment in Jannah right now, right? They have died in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are getting bounties that are especially from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says that what they did, none of that will be lost either. On top of that, they're going to get an additional reward for the what they put forth. الَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِلَّهِ, and those who responded to God. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes us back to Uhud for a second. He's giving us another glimpse of what happened immediately post-battle. Right? The Muslims were wounded. Right? أَصَابَهُمُ الْقَرْحِ, as it mentions in this ayah we're about to read. But just to give a quick story, they were wounded. And they regathered their forces and they became at the top of the mountain. They were just getting everything recollected. And the Quraysh, they could have followed them up to the mountain and continued the onslaught. But yet, for some reason, again, bi'idhnillah, Abu Sufyan decided that no, we will then have a lower hand if we try to climb up the mountain, which they're already on top of. And so let us not attack them there. We will take this as our victory and we're going to go. But then as they were on the outskirts of the battle, then they started thinking, and man, this is a good opportunity to just, finish them off. They are pretty much done, like the Muslims. So we should just go back and finish them. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had allowed the Prophet to understand this as well. And so the Prophet then called all the Muslims and he regathered them. And he said, no, I know you're hurt, I know you're wounded, but let's go back and make sure that they're not going to try to come back and attack us. Let's show them again with a sense of force that we're still a force to reckon with. So الَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا, so the ones who answered, they answered lillahi wa rasuli. Again, the Prophet ﷺ made the call that we need to go and fight again after what has touched us. مِن بَعْدِ مَا أَصَابَهُمُ الْقَرْحِ, what I was saying. After that we have been, we have suffered some wounds. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if you obey the messenger in this thing, you're actually answering to the call of God. Istajabu lillah wa rasul, and the messenger as well. لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا مِنْهُمْ وَاتَّقُوا أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, then for them is going to be ihsan. There's going to be good. And and then he says, وَاتَّقُوا أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ, and they're going to have and from them they're going to have, who are God conscious, they're going to have a great reward. And so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, so when they did this, the Muslims, to quickly end the story, they found that then the Quraysh, they got scared and they actually ran off, right? So there wasn't actually another battle that happened in that situation. But to have the courage to be wounded, to be thirsty, to be tired, and then to accept the call of the messenger to say that we're going to continue and try to fight, having just seen and witnessed what happened to the Muslim army. That took a lot of ihsan. That took a lot of courage for them to accept. Then when you're about to go into the battlefield and you're going again, not knowing whether the army will be there or not, the opposing army, that takes taqwa, right? To only fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the face of war. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, أَحْسَنُوا مِنْهُمْ وَاتَّقُوا أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ, and the ones who had ihsan and the ones that have taqwa, then they're going to have a great reward. الَّذِينَ قَالَ لَهُمُ النَّاسِ, and then the ones that he said and to the people, إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ فَاخْشَوْهُمْ فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us, like for example, there's these individuals, and we have them in our community as well, who we call like the conspiracy theorists, right? And they're like, oh, so and so are going to be plotting against us. The U.S. government is trying to put all the Muslims in treatment camps, and the Jews are plotting against the Muslims in this manner and this and that, and all they're doing is just they're spitting out conspiracy theories. Right? And we should fear this person. We should fear our enemies. They're going to have, they're trying to amass a large army against us. But what's the benefit of doing that? Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that we shouldn't indulge our time in trying to do and indulge our conversation and indulge in conversations like that. So the ones who النَّاسُ إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ فَاخْشَوْهُمْ فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, those people, when they say those things to you, you should increase yourself in iman. The Prophet is being told to say that to us, that when you hear of people like this, that should increase you and I in iman. Why would it do that? Because the Prophet already told us that there are going to be people who are going to amass against you, but they're going to be like the froth of the sea. There's going to be like they're going to mass and they're going to be large in quantity, but they have no weight to them. وَقَالُوا حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. And in response, they should say, حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for us. وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. And He is the best of the protector. He is the best protector. So we shouldn't take this and take it to heart and be sorrowed by it. Right? فَانْقَلِبُوا بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. Then they were returned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now continues the story of Uhud, and He says they are returned بِنِعْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ, and by the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They didn't have to fight a single person. لَمْ يَمْسَسْهُمْ سُوءٌ, and harm did not touch them. وَاتَّبَعُوا رِضْوَانَ اللَّهِ, and they obeyed, they pursued in the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the test it wasn't going to be the fight. It was whether they could get themselves together, collect themselves, and just go in the path of what seems to be the path of adversity. If they can manage that task, then Wallahu dhul fadlin azim. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the possessor of the great favors that are going to follow them. إِنَّمَا ذَلِكُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ يُخَوِّفُ أَوْلِيَاءَهُ فَلَا تَخَافُوهُم. And it is shaitan, right? Ash-shaytan yukhawwifu. He's going to instill fear using his protectors. أَوْلِيَاءَهُم. Meaning, he's going through his protectors, through his awliya, through his companions, through the companions of shaitan, he's going to try to, instill fear in you and I. فَلَا تَخَافُوهُمْ. Then don't fear him. وَخَافُونِي. And fear me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Right? Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. If you are believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us, only we should be in fear of is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يَحْزُنْكَ الَّذِينَ يُصَارِعُونَ فِي الْكُفْرِ. And don't be grieved. لا تحزن, as has been mentioned, right? لا يحزنك. And don't fear الَّذِينَ يُصَارِعُونَ فِي الْكُفْرِ. Those who are going to be quick, those are going to be who are going to try to be jumping on the bandwagon of kufr, right? Because now Khandaq is going to be coming up, and so people are going to be jumping on the bandwagon to try to they don't know what they're doing, why they're fighting, they just want to go against Islam. That's it. So they're going to be jumping on the bandwagon of kufr. إِنَّهُمْ لَن يَضُرُّوا اللَّهَ شَيْئًا. They will not be able to harm Allah at all. It doesn't say Islam. It doesn't say you and I. Yes, in the process, we may be hurt. We may think Islam is being compromised. We may think that they're burning the Quran, right? But they will never be able to cause harm to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah, at the end of the day, will protect all of us. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَلَّا يَجْعَلَ لَهُمْ حَظًّا فِي الْآخِرَةِ. And it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants that they are going to have no share in the hereafter. Hadhan is like a portion, right? Khalaq is like from khalaqat, like a creation, but hadhan is like any good portion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want even for them to get lucky and find out that they have actually some good deed that they could have been accepted. No, He just wants to completely make sure that they have nothing in the hereafter. fil akhirah. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. And they're going to have a very a terrible punishment. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الْكُفْرَ بِالْإِيمَانِ. And indeed the ones who traded, ishtara, to trade, like, you give something and you get something. And what did they give? They gave up faith for iman. Sorry, they gave up faith for disbelief. So they gave up iman for disbelief. لَن يَضُرُّوا اللَّهَ شَيْئًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who sell their faith for disbelief, Allah will not harm in any way. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. And they're going to have a very, very painful punishment. They're going to have a very, very painful punishment. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us of those who are in the company of the righteous, and who are not of those who have even an ounce of nifaq in our hearts. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consistently that He gives us sincerity in the a'mal that we do, so that it cannot be used against us on the Day of Judgment. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqihi sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi wa sallam ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.